The Galactic armor testing facility stood as a testament to both technological achievement and hubris. High Commander Zral stood before the assembled Kraxan War Council, his forearms crossed in what he believed to be an intimidating pose. The chamber's purple lighting cast dramatic shadows across his crystalline exoskeleton, which he'd polished to a mirror shine for this momentous occasion. The effect was somewhat ruined by the fact that he kept accidentally catching glimpses of himself in his own reflection and preening. "Esteemed warriors of the mighty Kraxan Empire," he announced, his mandibles clicking with barely contained excitement. "Today we begin our most glorious conquest yet. Our target." He paused for dramatic effect, but Supreme General Lyle ruined it by checking messages on his neural interface and muttering something about cat videos. Zral cleared all three of his throat sacs and continued louder, "A primitive backwater world called Earth." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a blue-green planet that looked decidedly unimpressive. Several council members stifled yawns. One actually fell asleep. Now, don't let appearances deceive you," Zral chided, tapping commands into his control panel. "These humans are, well, actually, appearances aren't deceiving at all. They're exactly as primitive as they look. Our advanced scans show they still use combustion engines, haven't even unified their planet under a single government, and get this, they spend approximately 33.7% of their time arguing about something called pineapple on pizza, on their primitive information networks." This got a laugh from the council. War Minister Kryx raised one of her sensory appendages. "But surely they must have some redeeming qualities." The Galactic Council classified them as a Class 12 Death World species. Zral scoffed so hard he nearly dislodged his ceremonial headrest. "Please, have you seen their so-called weapons? They still use projectiles. Actual physical projectiles. Like throwing rocks, but with more steps." He pulled up another hologram showing human military equipment. "And look at their armor. It doesn't even have quantum shielding or psychic dampeners. It's just layers of fiber and ceramic. How quaint." The War Council burst into chittering laughter. Supreme General Ixel finally looked up from his neural feed. "So what's the plan then? Standard conquest protocol?" "Even easier," Zral rubbed his primary hands together gleefully. "We deploy our newest battlecruisers, yes, the ones with the extra shiny quantum cannons that we spent half our military budget on because they look cool. We make a show of force, maybe blow up one of their small moons to demonstrate our superiority." Sir," a junior tactical officer interrupted. "Earth only has one moon." "Perfect. Even less work for us. We blow up their only moon, they surrender in terror, and we're home in time for the new season of Dancing with the Stellar Entities." The council chamber erupted in enthusiastic mandible clicking. Zral basked in their approval, already imagining how good the "Conqueror of Earth" title would look on his social media profile. He'd even practiced his victory pose. "Deploy the fleet," he commanded. "Let's show these primitives what real technological superiority looks like. And someone wake up General Mixer. He's drooling on the quantum tactical display again." The Kraxan battle fleet emerged from hyperspace in a perfect formation that they'd spent 6 months rehearsing. High Commander Zral had insisted on it, claiming that first impressions were everything. Unfortunately, nobody had accounted for Earth's particularly robust satellite network, and 3 ships immediately got tangled in what the humans called Starlink. "Status report." Zral demanded from his command chair, which he'd recently upgraded to include cup holders for all 4 arms. "Sir, our advanced sensors are picking up strange readings," reported Science Officer Nixer, frantically adjusting her instruments. "The humans appear to be engaged in numerous bizarre rituals. In one region, large groups gather in enclosed structures to watch others throw balls through elevated hoops. They seem very emotional about it. Clearly some primitive form of combat training," Zral noted sagely, while completely missing the point of basketball. "And here, sir," another analyst chimed in, Humans are gathering in massive numbers, holding glowing devices in the air while someone makes loud noises on an elevated platform. Our weapon charging stations combined with sonic warfare. Clever, but primitive. Zral mused, fundamentally misunderstanding the concept of concerts. The observations continued. The Kraxan watched in bewilderment as humans performed something called unboxing videos, convinced it must be some kind of sacred ritual. They witnessed people planking and concluded it was an advanced form of camouflage. Someone discovered TikTok dances and theorized they were complex military signals. "Sir," Science Officer Nixer suddenly called out, "you need to see this. Humans are voluntarily ingesting capsaicin compounds." The bridge crew gathered around her display, watching in horror as humans participated in hot wing challenges. "By the crystal moons," Zral whispered, "they're immune to chemical warfare. They're doing it for entertainment." "It gets worse," Tactical Officer Rickle added. "They have these gathering places called gyms where they voluntarily subject themselves to repeated physical stress. And these other establishments called coffee shops where they willingly consume high doses of stimulants." The bridge fell silent as they processed this information. A junior analyst fainted when they discovered energy drinks. "Look at this!" someone shouted. "They're exposing themselves to dangerous radiation for aesthetic purposes." The screen showed a tanning salon. Zral's mandibles quivered. Perhaps we should conduct more observations before proceeding with the invasion." "Sir, we're detecting something strange in the planet's oceans," reported the sensor operator. "Humans are deliberately riding on giant waves. For recreation. And here, they're jumping out of perfectly functional aircraft. This group is climbing a frozen mountain. These ones are poking dangerous wildlife and yelling, 'Crikey.'" With each new observation, the mighty Kraxan warriors grew more unsettled. These humans didn't just survive on their death world. They seemed to actively seek out new ways to challenge it. "High Commander," Science Officer Nixer said quietly, "I'm beginning to think the Galactic Council's classification might have been conservative." Zral adjusted his ceremonial collar nervously. "Nonsense. They're still primitive. Look, they haven't even developed proper space travel yet. They're just enthusiastically suicidal. Nothing to worry about. Prepare for the next phase of our plan." As if on cue, a small object bounced off their hull. "What was that?" Zral demanded. "Sir, it appears to be something called a crew dragon. There are humans inside it. And they're taking selfies with our ship." After much deliberation and 3 emergency mindfulness sessions, High Commander Zral chose a landing site that their scans indicated was a human combat training ground. The massive Kraxan warship descended through the atmosphere with menacing grace, its quantum engines humming dramatically, only to settle in the middle of the annual Midwest Extreme Paintball Championship. "Warriors of the mighty Kraxan Empire," Zral announced over the ship's external speakers, "we come to demonstrate our superior, ow." He jerked back as something splattered against the bridge viewport, leaving a bright pink splotch. "We are under attack." Tactical Officer Rickle screamed, his ceremonial armor already stained with 3 different colors. "They have weapons that deploy pigments." The paintball players, far from being intimidated by the alien arrival, had immediately incorporated the massive warship into their game as cover. Teams of humans in camouflage gear darted around the ship's landing struts, peppering its hull with a rainbow of colors. "Deploy the shock troops," Zral ordered, his voice cracking slightly. "Show them our superior combat prowess." The Kraxan warriors emerged from their ship in perfect formation, their crystalline armor gleaming, for approximately 3 seconds before they were caught in a crossfire of paint rounds. Chaos ensued as the mighty alien warriors discovered that their advanced armor, while capable of stopping plasma bolts, had absolutely no defense against water-soluble paint. "My sensors are compromised," one warrior wailed, his helmet covered in neon green. "I can't feel my third arm," another cried, completely missing the point that it was just paint. A group of teenagers, having apparently decided that aliens made excellent content, had started a live stream. What's up TikTok? Today we're teaching some space brothers how to play paintball. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Zral watched in horror as human communication devices appeared everywhere, recording their embarrassment. This is clearly some form of psychological warfare, he declared, just before taking a yellow paintball to his ceremonial head crest. The situation deteriorated further when someone introduced the aliens to the concept of trash-talking. High Commander Zral paced the bridge of his warship, his crystalline boots crunching on a layer of dried paint. The ship's quantum armor, designed to withstand the fury of a supernova, now sported a garish abstract pattern that would have made an Earth modern art enthusiast swoon. The once pristine command deck looked like the aftermath of a preschool art project gone horribly, horribly wrong. This cannot be happening, Zral muttered, his voice echoing in the unnaturally quiet space. Even the ship's AI seemed to be sulking, its usually chipper voice now a subdued monotone. We are the mighty Kraxan Empire. Conquerors of 1,000 worlds. How can we be bested by primates with glorified squirt guns? Science Officer Nixer, her exoskeleton still bearing splotches of fluorescent orange, cleared her throat hesitantly. Sir, I believe we may have underestimated the human's capacity for creative warfare. Zral whirled on her, his mandibles quivering with barely suppressed rage. Creative warfare? Is that what we're calling it now? Not humiliating defeat at the hands of a species that still thinks digital watches are a pretty neat idea? Nixer flinched, but pressed on bravely. They do seem to have a knack for adapting to new situations. And their social media proficiency is alarming. As if on cue, a holographic display popped up, showing a TikTok video of a group of humans teaching a very confused Kraxan warrior how to floss dance. The video had already garnered over 1 million views and a flood of comments like LMAO Space Lobster got moves and petition to make this the official Earth Kraxan peace dance. Zral slammed a claw on the control panel, dismissing the display. Enough. We will not be made fools of by these hairless apes. Initiate Plan B. There was a moment of awkward silence. Finally, Tactical Officer Rickle spoke up. Sir. We don't have a Plan B. This was supposed to be an easy conquest, remember? The High Commander's eye twitched. Fine. Then we infiltrate their society. Learn their weaknesses. And then strike when they least expect it. The bridge crew exchanged skeptical looks. Infiltrate, sir? Nixer asked carefully. But, we're 8-foot-tall crystalline arthropods. We might stand out just a bit. Zral waved a dismissive claw. Nonsense. We have holodisguise technology, don't we? We'll just disguise ourselves as humans and blend right in. And so, Operation Infiltration began. A crack team of Kraxan warriors, hand-picked by High Commander Zral himself, ventured forth into human society, equipped with state-of-the-art holographic disguises. At first, things seemed to be going smoothly. The disguised aliens walked among the humans, observing their customs, their culture, their daily routines. But as the days turned into weeks, it became increasingly clear that blending in was easier said than done. There were incidents. Like the time Tactical Officer Rickle, disguised as a human businessman, attended a board meeting and accidentally sat on the chairman. In his defense, Kraxan seats were usually much sturdier. Or when Science Officer Nixer, posing as a barista, got a bit too enthusiastic about studying human energy consumption habits and ended up giving an entire coffee shop caffeine poisoning. And then there was the unfortunate misunderstanding when a disguised warrior tried to acquire samples of Earth cuisine and ended up causing a citywide panic over a supposed alien abduction at a hot dog stand. Through it all, High Commander Zral remained stubbornly optimistic. We're learning valuable intel, he insisted, even as reports of glitchy NPCs and malfunctioning androids flooded human social media. It's only a matter of time before we find their weakness. That optimism was put to the test, and a warrior disguised as a gym teacher accidentally enrolled a platoon of cracks and shock troops in a Zumba class. The sight of 24 8-foot-tall humans in fluorescent spandex, stomping and clicking their way through a salsa routine, made even the most hardened gym rats question their life choices. Meanwhile, back on the warship, the situation was growing dire. The ship's AI, in a misguided attempt to boost morale, had discovered memes. The once sleek command deck was now plastered with holographic images of grumpy cats, dancing babies, and a particularly disturbing Cracks and Rick roll. Morale was indeed at an all-time low. Warriors who had once dreamed of glorious conquest now huddled in corners, muttering about the horror of the Macarena and the eldritch abomination known as Baby Shark. Even the ship's nutrient dispensers seemed to be mocking them, churning out endless astronaut in the ocean protein shakes. In a desperate bid to salvage the mission, High Commander Zral called for a strategic retreat. "We'll regroup on the dark side of their moon," he declared, "and plan our next move. Surely, there must be some chink in their armor, some weakness we can exploit." As the battered warship limped into lunar orbit, Zral couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. Were they really up against an unbeatable foe? Had the mighty Kraxan Empire finally met its match in these bizarre, unpredictable, maddeningly resilient humans? No, he decided. They were the conquerors of 1,000 worlds. They would not be defeated by a species that put pineapple on pizza. There had to be a way. But as he stared down at the blue-green planet below, watching the twinkling lights of human cities and the crisscrossing lines of their absurd World Wide Web, High Commander Zral couldn't shake the feeling that perhaps, just perhaps, they had bitten off more than they could chew. "Status report," he sighed, bracing himself for more bad news. "Sir," Science Officer Nixer piped up, "I think you should see this. The humans, they've noticed our presence." A holographic display popped up, showing a news headline, "Alien Invasion or Epic Prank?" World governments baffled as reports of glitchy ETS flood social media. Zral's head sank into his claws. It was going to be a long campaign. Nixer scrolled through the memes, her mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "I don't think they're taking us very seriously, sir." Zral slammed a claw on the console, making the holographic display flicker. "Then we'll make them take us seriously. Prepare the quantum cannon. We'll show them the true might of the Kraxan Empire." The bridge crew exchanged uneasy glances. "Sir," ventured Tactical Officer Rickle, "are you sure that's wise? The Galactic Council has strict regulations about using planet-destroying weapons on pre-spaceflight civilizations." "To the void with the Galactic Council." Zral snapped. "They classified these humans as a Class 12 Death World species. I say it's time we put that classification to the test." As the warship's weapon systems hummed to life, Zral allowed himself a moment of vindictive satisfaction. "Let's see the humans make memes about this," he thought grimly. But before he could give the order to fire, a proximity alert blared through the command deck. "Sir," cried the sensor operator. "We've got incoming. It's. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a sight that made every Kraxan's crystalline blood run cold. There, rising from the blue-green curve of Earth, was a swarm of human spacecraft. But these were not the rudimentary chemical rockets they had expected. No, these ships were sleek, angular, and bristling with weaponry that looked suspiciously like quantum cannons, Zral whispered, his voice a mix of awe and dread. But how?" As if in answer, a hailing frequency crackled to life. A human face appeared on the screen, grinning broadly. "Hey there, space lobsters. Like our new toys? Amazing what you can reverse engineer from a crashed alien ship and a bunch of TikTok videos. Gotta love that human ingenuity, am I right?" Zral stared at the screen, his mandibles hanging slack. You you tricked us. The human winked. Oldest trick in the book, my dude. Well, second oldest. The oldest is, look behind you, but that's harder to pull off in space. Behind him, Zral heard the distinctive hum of quantum cannons powering up. Human quantum cannons. Now, about that whole, conquering Earth, thing, the human continued, his grin taking on a predatory edge. What say we renegotiate the terms? As the bridge crew scrambled to raise shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers, High Commander Zral slumped in his chair, a single thought echoing through his mind. We've been bamboozled. The battle, if it could be called that, was over before it began. The Kraxan warship, its quantum shield still calibrated for paintballs and memes, stood no chance against the barrage of human quantum cannons. In a matter of minutes, the once mighty vessel was reduced to a glittering heap of shattered crystal and shredded holodisguises. In the chaos of the bombardment, a single escape pod jettisoned from the ruined ship. Inside, High Commander Zral huddled with the remnants of his crew, their faces lit by the flickering glow of emergency holograms. This is all your fault, grumbled Tactical Officer Rickle, nursing a cracked carapace. If you hadn't been so obsessed with showing off our technological superiority. Oh, shut your mandibles, snapped Science Officer Nixer. We all underestimated them. Even the Galactic Council got it wrong. Zral barely heard their bickering. He was staring at the display screen, watching in numb disbelief as the human fleet towed the wreckage of his ship towards Earth. Towards a fate that he could only imagine would involve more memes, more humiliation, and more of those infernal reaction videos. What do we do now? Someone asked, their voice small and lost in the cramped confines of the escape pod. Zral didn't answer. He couldn't. For the first time in his long and decorated career, the High Commander of the Kraxan Empire, Scourge of 1,000 Worlds, was utterly and completely at a loss. It was Nixer who finally broke the silence. We go home, she said, her tone resolute. We report to the War Council. And we tell them the truth, that we've encountered a species unlike any we've ever faced. A species that doesn't just survive on a death world, but thrives on it. A species that takes our worst and turns it into art. Rickle shook his head. They'll never believe us. We'll be the laughingstock of the Empire. Better to be a laughingstock than a cautionary tale, Nixer retorted. Besides, we have proof. She tapped a few commands into her console, bringing up a holographic display. It was a meme, of course. A picture of Zral's face, contorted in shock and outrage, with the caption, TFW, you invade a primitive planet for easy conquest and end up getting your shiny metal ass handed to you by a bunch of hairless apes with a sense of humor. Despite himself, despite the humiliation and the defeat and the utter absurdity of it all, Zral felt a flicker of something that might have been respect. They really are quite good at this, he murmured. Nixer nodded. They are. And that's why we need to tell our story. Not just to the War Council, but to every species in the galaxy. Because if we don't... She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew the stakes. Earth, with its quantum cannons and its meme magic, couldn't be allowed to fall into the wrong claws. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and it was up to them to make sure it shifted in the right direction. As the escape pod hurtled through the void, carrying its shell-shocked crew towards an uncertain future, High Commander Zral stared out at the stars and wondered what other surprises the universe had in store. One thing was certain, he would never look at a hairless ape the same way again. The Galactic Council chamber was in an uproar. Representatives from 100 different species shouted, gestured, and in a few cases, excreted stress pheromones as they struggled to process the news. An entire Kraxan battle fleet, defeated by primitives? Impossible. The Kraxan are the most technologically advanced empire in the quadrant. I told you we should have never given them quantum cannons. It always goes to their heads. At the center of the chaos, High Commander Zral stood with his crew, their battered exoskeletons and paint-splattered uniforms a testament to their harrowing ordeal. They had faced down ridicule, skepticism, and outright laughter to bring their story to the council. But now, faced with the undeniable evidence of human cunning and adaptability, even the most stubborn bureaucrats were starting to take notice. "This is an unprecedented situation," declared the council speaker, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "A pre-spaceflight species, not only resisting cracks in conquest but reverse engineering their technology. It defies all known models of galactic civilization development. With all due respect, Madam Speaker," Sral said, stepping forward, "I believe it's time we re-evaluate those models. The humans have proven themselves to be an exceptional case. They don't just survive on their death world, they thrive on it. They turn challenges into opportunities, adversity into strength. And as for their sense of humor." He shuddered, remembering the memes. So many memes. The speaker regarded him thoughtfully. "And what do you propose, Commander Zral?" Zral took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would decide the fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire galaxy. "I propose." He began, his voice ringing out in the sudden hush of the chamber, "an alliance." The uproar returned, louder than before. "An alliance? With primitives? Heresy. The Kraxan do not ally, they conquer. Have you lost your mind, Zral?" But Zral stood firm, his paint-splattered exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. "No," he said, quiet but resolute. "For the first time, I believe I've found it." He turned to face the assembled counselors, his gaze sweeping over the sea of alien faces. "The humans have shown us that there's more to life than conquest and domination. They've shown us the power of laughter, of creativity, of memes." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "Imagine what we could achieve, if we combined our technology with their ingenuity. Imagine the wonders we could create, the challenges we could overcome. Imagine, a galaxy united not by fear, but by friendship." It was a wild hope, a desperate gamble. But as Zral looked around the chamber, he saw something extraordinary, nods of agreement, murmurs of assent. Even the most hardened warlords and cynical bureaucrats seemed to be considering his words. And then, from the back of the room, a lone figure stood up. It was the human ambassador, a grin spreading across her hairless ape face. "Well said, Commander Lobster. We humans have a saying, if you can't beat meme ham." The chamber erupted in laughter. And for the first time in galactic history, it was a laughter that united rather than divided. A laughter that held the promise of a brighter future, a future where even the most unlikely allies could find common ground. High Commander Zral, scourge of 1,000 worlds, defeated conqueror of Earth, looked out at the faces of his new friends and felt a strange sensation bubbling up in his thorax. It took him a moment to recognize it. Hope. And also, the irresistible urge to create a meme about it.